Hello and welcome to the 2022 Georgia Offensive Football Scheme Review. I am your guide on this journey, SEC StatCat, Clark Brooks. So we're going to go through all of Georgia's favorite runs, favorite pass concepts, some tactics that Todd Monken leaned on to make this one of the most effective offenses the last two seasons. So Georgia's offense is multiple. Maybe 10 years ago, you would say this would be a pro-style attack, but this still does some college-y things. Jet sweeps, run-pass options, and plenty of marriage between the run and the pass. So using three words to describe this Georgia offense, the first word that comes to mind is complementary. We'll go more over this in the vids, but that word will consistently come up across multiple concepts, how they were able to facilitate each other, and they were able to play off one another and create explosive gains. And that leads us into the second word, potent. Georgia has led the SEC each of the last 2 years in explosive pass rate. They're the only team to eclipse a clip of 12.5. That's basically 1 out of every 8 pass plays going for 20 yards or more. That is insane efficiency. And of course, if you look at the old stats, just yards per play, there is no accident that Georgia has led the SEC in that regard as well, with clips over 7 yards. 7 yards per play. Just absolutely insane. And then we're going to finish off with our third word with powerful. Despite investing in more nimble offensive linemen, Georgia was the only offensive line this past season to generate a rush yard before contact clip over 3 yards. This was this offensive line paving run lanes. And then the 12 personnel and the gap scheme proficiency. If that doesn't mean power football, I don't know what does. And speaking to their ability to get explosive plays, they have led to points. Georgia was the only SEC offense the last 2 years to eclipse a 0.6 points per play and a 52% scoring drive rate. Not too shabby. And we'll get to the concepts here in a second, but I wanted to highlight some of the tactics that Todd Monken leaned on to help get Georgia where they are today. Under James Coley, not that anything was broken, but it did seem stuck. It did seem a little archaic. It did seem a little stale, being a run-oriented offense that just wanted to line up and out-smash-mouth people with very little razzmatazz in between. So, yes, Georgia still very much wanted to start things running the ball, established the run game, the ground game, but there was much more of a pass element under Todd Monken. So, to start a set of downs, James Coley's last season, they ran the ball 57% of the time. Well, under Todd Monken, each of the last 3 years, that clip is at least 3% better. That means they're passing more to start a set of downs. And like I said, it has bled over to overall passing increasing. So James Coley's last year, Georgia's overall pass rate was 48%. Well, each of the last 3 years, we've got 53% in 2020, 54% in 2021, and 52% this past season. Of course, it's gone down. Georgia had a lot of leads to bleed away, so it didn't make a lot of sense to pass more, but still, over half of their plays were passes despite that this past season. RPOs are on the rise. Play actions were on the rise. Screens were on the rise. And even though pre-snap motion was about a little stable, shifts at snap motions are up. And of course, Georgia coming off a season with one of its best rush yards before contact in meaningful minutes, I should say. So all of those statistics were taken when the lead was at least 18 points. They were up or down 18 points. And of course, talking about those shifts, those noticeable shifts, 39 occurred this season in meaningful minutes, and 16 occurred the last 4 games. Don't tell me those didn't pop off the screen when Georgia was playing their most impactful games. Moving those tight ends from one side of the formation to the other, or going from tight to bunch and really out-leveraging the defense that way. So Todd Monken, besides the concepts, besides the plays, besides the tendencies to use 12 personnel, all of these tactics helped add a little extra juice to Georgia's offense that gave them a potent, powerful, complementary attack. So what was the macro approach to start a set of downs? Since first downs are the most common situation in the game, it is a general reflection of what an offense likes to do by analyzing these situations. So even though Georgia did pass more, and even though we did stabilize our script to try and ward off garbage time snaps, Georgia's most repped concepts to start a set of downs were all run. So we had the inside zone slam read, the inside zone bluff read or split zone read, counter read, and duo dive. Now, the slam read more than doubled the next closest concept on the script, but there was not a lot of separation between their second most favorite concept and their fifth. So the inside zone bluff read had 23 reps, tackle counter read got 17 reps. So that's only 6 repetitions between those types of things. And of course, when you're having the marriage, this versatility between the run and the pass, it is really nice to see that play action bootlegs were the most targeted pass concept in these situations with 20 targets, averaging over 10 yards per play, averaging a new set of downs every time it was tried. But what about third downs? You know, they're not as standardized as 1st and 10. They have a lot more versatility, but I will always tell you the best third down offense is an offense that avoids third down the best. And looking at Georgia's first down rate, so that is total conversions by total plays, their 30.9 clip was the best in the conference. That's a great start. And looking at converting on first and second down specifically, their 72.2% clip rounded out the SEC's top 4. Moreover, only 3 other conference offenses dedicated a lower play share on third downs than Georgia. But speaking to setting themselves up for success, no SEC offense averaged less than their 5.1 yards to gain. The next closest offense, Tennessee, was 6.5. That's almost a yard and a half more on average than Georgia. So that should just tell you how great they were. But the operation wasn't too sexy. In short yardage, they wanted to hone in on their 2 main runs. So inside zone slam read and duo dive. Kind of similar type of thing. Hammer the ball inside, but duo dive, despite seeing equal usage as the slam read, was far and away the more effective concept. Then, through the air, everything was conservative. Only cross was the drop back pass pattern that logged at least 5 targets in our meaningful minute sample. Everything else was something a grade school quarterback could go out and execute. We're talking stick. We're talking spacing and curl-flat combos. We're talking the spot and the snag concept. We're talking all curls and convoy screens. You don't need a whole lot of talent to throw the ball in the flat now, do you? Well, anyways, it was fairly effective, but even when they were way behind the chain, so that's at least 6 yards or more to gain, everything basically remained conservative. 3 of the most targeted pass patterns in these instances were still spacing, all curls, and convoy screen. Sure, levels, sail, dagger, and cross came up in those situations, but still, Todd Monken overly preferred to keep Stetson Bennett with simple reads and make sure he can just go out and get a completion with a manageable distance to gain. So that should give you a general idea of how Georgia's offense basically operated, but you know me, I like to go through what they were actually running with their concept. So let's get going and kick it off with the inside zone slam read and the rest of their run looks. The inside zone slam read is basic, but it can be absolutely effective. And there was a reason why one of the most potent offenses in college football last year featured it, especially to start a set of downs. So in our meaningful minutes sample, 82 were featured, and of those 82, 46 were on first down. And on first downs, when they saw a higher degree of 2 deep safeties, that really facilitates a lot of space in the box, it saw heightened efficiency, 54% success rate compared to 46% overall. And even though the success rates were pretty comparable between 11 personnel and 12 personnel, 11 personnel saw a 6.5 yards per carry versus the heavy sets that saw stuff under, 4 yards. But of course, those were more short yardage situations, early downs, trying to spread out the defense, trying to get some run alleys, and that's what we do on this play here. So read options, nothing new. We're reading the backside defender who has that edge integrity as we are working a zone path away. Georgia Tech does a little shift here, and they're going to have a stunt action on that's really going to help this play bust wide open. So they're going to do a little A-gap exchange here with this edge and a linebacker, and they're going to bring down this nickelback. Now, bringing a nickelback to go against Broderick Jones, advantage offense. So he's going to wash him away. and it's going to be a really good job from the backside to get their seals in place. And like I said, with this stun happening, it's going to get stonewalled. He's going to get knocked back, and our back is going to cut back and get north and south. So we'll let it play out here. We'll walk through. We can see the nickel back come on down here. Bold strategy, Cotton. Again, it doesn't really go out well. He's washed away. Linebackers picked up. A gap is sealed. And like I said, we got to reach. We got to reach with our edge, with our read defender on the edge, basically just staying pat on blocked with a little RPO action, getting attention of the rest of the box defenders. So boom, north and south. We show off our speed. Pretty simple and yet effective for great offense. So here's another rep of the inside zone slam read to start a set of downs in the national championship game. So RPOs versus straight reads had enhanced efficiency with more stuff going on, with more eye candy, more sideline to sideline responsibility in multifaceted ways being asked by the defense. Georgia was able to capitalize. So with RPOs, they had a 5.4 yards per carry with a 53% success rate. Without RPOs, they had a 4.9 yards per carry with only a 41% success rate. So that is a significant drop in efficiency when they did not have extra stuff going on. When they just tried to line them up and out smash mouth people like the days of old, yeah, reduced efficiency. So very good job by Monken to use RPOs on 51 of the 82 in our sample. The majority used RPOs, and as we saw with the increased efficiency, pretty good reason why. So this is an arrow or a flat RPO. We are trying to read this edge defender. He is in conflict. Now, this rep is not going to be a great job from our left side of our offensive line. It's just not. But it's going to be a pretty good job from our front four. And we're going to have a bounce here after we make somebody miss in the backfield. But it's a really sloppy job. Both our left tackle and our left guard. Yeah, it's not going to be a teach tape for them whatsoever. I mean, as is, it's a pretty crowded box, but we're able to bounce and get outside as we're going to see here. So with this flat route occupying our edge defender and our X receiver taking care of that corner, they're going to be inconsequential to what happens on this play. But we're going to see a stunt here from Ohio State that's really going to give us some problems. So, but again, very good job to keep our head up on the front side and seal as we're able to bounce and get points. So we'll watch it through here. You can see immediately we're lunging at the left tackle spot. We miss our landmark and we fall down. Not good. Next, we're going to have a stunting interior into the path of our guard who is working play side. And whoop! He whips him, and we get instant penetration. This is what we're talking about. But good thing that he's not able to keep his footing, so Milton can absolutely get some momentum towards the perimeter. And as we see, we can race and get through. But it doesn't work if we don't get seals on the play side. So with this interior stunting away, that means our combo here with our guard, with our center and our guard, can then work up to the second level. So we both kind of work up to this backer at first, and as this guy's kind of sniffing into play, he kind of gets picked up in the mess as well. And with our tackle and tight end here at the top of the screen, it's a 2-on-1 at the point of attack, and we're then comboing towards the second level. And we get enough hat on a hat, like we said there. We get a nice drive, pushing back, and like I said, with this guy able to not get the job done, we can race to space and then put our shoulder down past the goal line. Split zone reads, of course, go by many names depending on the various schemes. In StatCat lingo, we refer to it as bluff. So unlike slam reads in the inside zone family, where everyone's working the same way in a coordinated fashion, split zones or split flow plays will see a play side, tight end, sniffer, fullback work against the grain and create a hard edge. The theory is, if the defense over pursues to our zone coordination, we then can get a seal and a seal to create a new hole. but this is going to be a really, really strong rep from our center and right guard on the back side. Of course, it's going to be another instance where Harold Perkins kind of pops on tape a little bit, but we'll get there in a second. On the front side, it's hat on hat. Everyone does their job well. Our slot receiver takes care of our edge. Our tight end is able to, or our tackle is able to get up to the second level, and our guard is able to take care of this interior. But you'll see here the push that we get on the backside really does make this play, because once we get our steals and a little bit of a cushion, we're going to race on through and get a 51-yard gain. So unlike the slam read, where 51 of the 82 reps and meaningful minutes used RPOs, only 7 split zone reads used RPOs. This is a straight up rep that we're about to see here. And you know, even though the slam read was far and away the most popular to start a set of downs, 23 of the 50 split zone reads occurred to start a set of downs. But here, obviously, short yard situation, that does not matter. But we're going to draw this up real quickly. Before we can see exactly what we're going to try and do here. So we're going to do I'm going to draw a little attention here to Mr. Perkins on the backside. So he's not going to do a wrong arm technique where he would take his right shoulder, kind of dip underneath, try to blow up that hole and force a bounce for this safety to make the play. He keeps his edge integrity, forcing Stetson Bennett to hand off the ball. Again, this is a read option after all. He is coming down hard. He is forcing a give. If this would have been a keep, well, it probably would have been a tackle for a loss. But as you can see here, taking on 6'7", Mr. Washington. He's not afraid of the contact. He blows up that spot. But in doing so, that would force this safety to have the C-gap responsibility. He's a little slow to get down there. As we can see, there is a hole for him to come down and make the play. He does not. But, like I talked about at the top of the video, fantastic job from our center and our guard here. Nice combo, working to the second level. That is exactly what you want. That is exactly what you want. Again, with the wash away play side, hat on a hat, hat on a hat. There's just absolutely no one to make the play here. I mean, look, they push our interiors basically to the yard to gain before our back even crosses the line of scrimmage. That's exactly what you want to impose your will. I mean, look, this is the third quarter. Game's basically over. LSU's pretty demoralized, but still a very, very explosive rep from the split zone read concept from Georgia. So here's another explosive rep of the inside zone bluff read or split zone read. On the year, an insane amount of potency. 20% of its carries gain 10 yards or more. Just absolutely fantastic. So by volume, that was 13 on the season across its 73 featured reps. So in addition to, you know, using these as intended as straight up runs, again, only 7 used RPOs. We had 19 featured split zone play actions and 4 bluff action end around. So, you know, where you're faking that thing, you do a little end around. So this is an interesting rep where you're bringing in your tight end from out wide. What else does Georgia do that on? On tosses. Oh my gosh. So again, when you're faking a toss and using that type of action to set up other type of elements in your offense, it's just a really, really good job from Todd Monken. So to draw it up real quickly again, so we're going to have a split zone here, opposite the flow of everyone else working on their zone combos, trying to work up to the second level. This edge defender is also a read defender in case Stetson Bennett wants to reach. If this guy tries the wrong arm, like if it was a counter technique and he wants to take it inside, there's just no one left on the perimeter for Stetson Bennett. But this is going to be a give situation. Very good patience as we let this develop for a beat. So this is also a really interesting rep because of how we bring in this little crack action. We're going to have our wide receiver actually block down into the box. He's not going to try and work north and south and work on that corner. He's going to take care of that linebacker, which kind of frees stuff up here. So as we're drawing this up, split zone away. These two are going to work up to this safety. Crazy as it sounds, that's how it's going to work out because of how this guy's taking on him. Backside, comboing up to that fellow with Bowers taking on our edge who forces the give. So that's the split flow. Pretty simple, right? So we'll watch it play out. Always like to see what this guy does first on these types of plays. Because again, if the defense over pursues and we at least get a seal here, well, we have a brand new cutback lane. But again, that's not going to be any type of difference on this type of rep. So edge defender comes upfield. It's going to be an easy give situation. We get a kick out. We get engagement, and we get our seals at the point of attack. Most inside zones, mid zones, they want to hit the B gap between the guard and tackle play side, and that's exactly what we do here. We get our reach at the point of attack. We get our crack back on that linebacker. He washes him down, and then we race to grass. Very nice rep from Georgia's offense. The duo dive, it's an old school man blocking scheme that is all about imposing your will. So over the last 5 years or so, duo dive has seen a very high increase of usage from tight bunch sets, as opposed to Georgia. 47 of the duo dives that were run from this offense this year occurred out of these types of formations. And as you could guess, most used heavy personnel sets. So 13 personnel with 2 or 3 tight ends and 1 running back. 31 of the 34 on the season came from heavy sets. So what does it mean to be a man scheme versus a zone scheme? So on zone schemes, we're all blocking an area. If the defender flows into our hole, we have him. But gap schemes have rules. As opposed to this play, it goes gap on backer in order of operation. Now, what does gap mean? You're putting your ass in the hole. You're creating a divergence. There's the hole. You're both putting your back towards what the area you're supposed to block. On, what's next? Well, if there's a guy head up on you, you are responsible for him. And then backer. Next level, you're trying to seal. On this play, with a lot of open gaps, you're going to see that from Georgia. And the other instance where it is different from a zone blocking scheme, you look at your center. Is he looking to reach and seal for something play side, or is he trying to do a hard edge? He does a hard edge on this play on our backer. Everyone else at the point of attack is basically washing down as we're reading to see if a backer blows up our spot and we bounce, or if he sits back on his heels and we attack. But we're at the point of the game where it's kind of teetering. We're trying to blow this thing out of the water. And here's an explosive carry for Milton. Again, center's blocking second level. We're blocking gap. We're blocking second level. We're blocking gap. We're blocking on. And we're snaking up in here. Little slow motion action. Very nice job from Washington. He does pack a punch here. Just look at this impact. Boom! Washes him down. There's our seal, there's our seal, and there is our green grass. Again, seeing to see what we can do, making this guy make a play in space. We make him wrong, because once he commits towards the inside, we then bounce out towards space, and we get a 20-plus yard carry for the duo dive. So here's another example of the duo dive, flipped from the example that we had previously towards our right-handed formation, but it's still explosive carry where we're using our gap on backer rules to block. So I tried to color coordinate there up front there. So we're basically going to get a lot of washes, and another great example of Brock Bowers being a versatile tight end. This time he's going to be blocking Harold Perkins, a dynamo defender in his own right, and we're going to make this unblocked corner wrong as he tries to fill, run gap responsibilities. So another example of how you can kind of differentiate between gaps and zones, particularly from this formation. We mentioned how there's a coordinated zone flow where you're trying to reach and seal as opposed to some type of divergence up front to create the hole, particularly with your center. If he's trying to seal as opposed to reach in the orientations run, it will give it away. Another way is just to look in the backfield and see how the quarterback handles it. So on zones, he will have like an open gate. His eyes will be up. It's easier to start or to run from a flat-footed position with that type of gait, as opposed to turning your shoulders like that with the perpendicular towards the line of scrimmage type of action, where you're just trying to get that running back to dictate north and south. So, like I said, gap on backer. We don't need to really draw it up again. Just really wanted to highlight the blocking here by Bowers as we make this guy wrong. Basically, everyone else is sealed inside. Good vision. Again, we're trying to see if a linebacker's too aggressive towards that action. If he fills a hole, then we can look to bounce, and that's kind of what happens here. So we're going to get our seals. Nice job from a wide receiver trying to get his jersey dirty and blocking a linebacker like this in space. But we can see how our linebacker is coming full head of steam. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to continue on our north-south trajectory. We put our foot in the ground, and once we get our seal there and our seal there from Bowers, well, there is our new hole. The question is, okay, shoot, we have a safety coming from a while away, and we have a corner from over here, and as you can see, he's trying to feel that. We see the vision, and guess where we're going to go? That's right on the outside, opposite where his momentum is taking him. We go to the green grass, and we get another explosive carry. So like I said, about 40% of Georgia's duo dives came from tight bunch formations, and of the 34 in our sample, 31 had multiple tight ends on the field. So, gap schemes, they absolutely had a role in Georgia's offense as they raced towards their second straight national championship. And even though this rep falls outside of our parameter, it is still a pretty good example from our play side action. And it is one of the handful of reps that utilize at the snap motion. So on the year, read or no read, you saw I had this guy keyed up as a read defender. You'll see here in a second. All in all, 97 traditional counters, so that's pulling your backside guard and your offset tight end fullback towards the other side of the formation. 43 had read options, but, however you want to signify it, I broke it out as counter reads, but only 5 went for 10 yards or more, so obviously I had to draw up one that went for 20 plus. So it was mostly featured against Kent State and Georgia Tech, but you'll see here, 2 deep type of structure from Vanderbilt. 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a give if it's a read on the play. But you'll see here with Vanderbilt also doing kind of a weak side action, it does force the handoff as well. But eye candy does its job, not only getting attention, but widening the defense. You'll see this edge defender, he will be pulled out. And of course, as you saw the diagram, that's exactly where we're going to run. So as opposed to spending our trapper and wrapper on those two fellows, we can then spend it on this linebacker and get a free extra blocker with our tackle. Even though it's not the best rep per se from our play side block backs from our guard and our center on this interior, you'll see he has an opportunity to make the play. Everything else basically goes wild for the offense. And again, very, very good effort from Edwards. So we'll see how the eye candy pulls. Boom. Stun away from where we're going. Again, that really does help us. We're not having to spend extra real estate or resources blocking those guys. Heads up, seeing the guy come clean off the edge. I mean, we knew with the 2 deep structure, again, it was probably going to be a handoff. But we see there's our trap. And again, here's the guy who was pulled out from our jet motion. And now Mr. Bowers gets to snake up inside and be our wrapper lead blocker on this linebacker. Now, we can already kind of see how this double team is faltering. And he has an opportunity right here to make the play, but he just does not do it. And as we can get to the next level, there's our wrapper block, and here's our tackle in space, free to block whomever. He kind of does a little bit enough to create a second crease and get a 20-yard gain. So gap schemes absolutely were very much effective for this Georgia offense, and the counter read, I mean, basically half of them worked in meaningful minutes. So here's another rep of the counter read from Georgia. Basically, 30 of the 43 counter read reps occurred after halftime. So it was definitely a way for them to lean on opponents when they had a lead and really impose their will. Like Gap schemes are bound to do, you know? But speaking of the way to impose their will, 12-13 personnel reps heighten the returns in our sample. 52% success rate on a 5.6 yards per carry. Gotta love that. So even though they only birthed 5 explosive carries on the year, no matter what personnel they were in, this was a pretty good rep from Edwards and a good example of him finding daylight. So Florida's in a pretty traditional 3-4 set, 2 deep safeties. Both corners are over in man coverage. So we're going to probably suspect some type of collapse here. But the thing is, we're going to hit inside to where his gap integrity becomes neutralized. So we're going to draw it up here again. Again, we're pulling our backside guard and our offset tight end fullback towards the strength. And since we have an additional body, it really does work out well for us. So we're blocking back to cover our butt. We're hinging to try to dissuade instant penetration from where we're pulling our linemen. And we're getting some additional block backs, leaving this defender and this defender unblocked for our trapper, hard edge setter, and our wrapper lead blocker. And our wrapper lead blocker, who's one of the best players in college football, you'll see how multifaceted he is, because if he doesn't do his job, this play does not work. But with him keeping outside integrity and us hitting this hole right down here, he just no one's there to make the play with our sound blocking. So you'll see everyone block back except for our 2 pullers. Trap. Bowers puts on the brakes, redirects, wraps, and there's our small hole. But look at that. Very good job to engage and make sure that no arm tackle can be done. He can't fall and take out his legs. He does just enough and hits his hole with all of our block backs. I know it's a lot of a mess, but very good job from Edwards to race on through for the score. Tosses were a tertiary part of this offense, no doubt about it, but they were effectively used and really complemented a lot of things of what Todd Monken was all about. So we already mentioned how duo dives from tight bunch formations have really rised in popularity, especially from this offense. 47 of duo dives came from this formation. And at this point in the game, when Georgia's trying to impose their will, you can really see how that plays into how the defense plays this. And you can see this stutter step to kind of influence this defender inside. But the whole idea is, look, if they're all thinking inside run, what's the next thing you're going to do? Run outside. So basically 70% of Georgia's toss actions, most of them did some type of pin pull on the front side. But they were all signified as zones in our charting system. Not that that really matters to anybody, but either way, of the 24 counter snaps, of the 24 toss snaps, 5 went for at least 10 yards. That's that's a fifth of their tries. That's insane efficiency. Over half of their yards were gained from those big gainers. But to tie in with the complementary type of football, of the 24 tosses, there were 16 play actions off of them. So it really did a nice job of teasing the defense in both inside thinking as well as run pass. So we'll see here how it's all drawn up. Unlike other types of runs that try to get some vertical push, perimeter runs are all about immediate reaches because we're just trying to get to the edge and get a crease. So our Frankenstein tight end, Darnell Washington, he's the guy who makes the play on this. Again, with the defense kind of looking inside and him getting the edge, no one is there to make the play once we hit the edge. So we'll watch it play out here. We can see basically everyone's reaching to their adjacent gap, except here. We're going to get a little pin pull here. I'll block back on those DBs. But again, I keep emphasizing them thinking inside run. Watch this hop step from Todd Monken to kind of feign like it might be a duo for a second. influences him inside. Again, he started the play with outside leverage. That's important. He leaves his spot. He is then sealed. Then that leaves the safety who is maybe thinking inside to then be responsible for outside. And as we can see, Washington already has the angle on him as he's able to reach him. And before we're finally trapped after an explosive game. But again, very good job reaching and sealing play side, ensuring no one is in our path. Using that chicken wing type of action and running sideways. It's not about how much strength you have. It's all about moving in space and being a barrier between you and the ball carrier on perimeter runs and tosses. In particular, were a very, very nice wrinkle. Even though, there wasn't so much variety, again, a lot of it was toss crack action. No one's going to bat an eye at a 55% success rate. Tackle counter reads and counter reads basically saw the exact same type of usage in our sample, but tackle counters had a slightly higher degree of return. So they birthed basically a 54% success rate on a 6.6 yards per carry. And here's one of the explosive ones seen in the SEC championship game. So even though this does fall outside of our parameter, it's a good rep nonetheless, and I wanted to draw it up. So, unlike other counters that are pulling the backside guard and an offset tight end, we are using our tackle to take on that wrapper roll, that lead blocker roll after our backside guard traps, sets that hard edge with basically everyone else feigning zone with down blocks. You'll see it's a fairly good job from our left tackle here before he bend backs against our linebacker before we get our hole. But this edge defender, he's unblocked. It is a read option. And like I mentioned in another video, 1, 2 deep safeties, 9 times out of 10, it's probably going to be a give anyway with vacated boxes. Trips are, kind of forcing the defense's hands before running towards the other side of the formation. So another good job of Todd Monken to scheming it up. So we'll see our down block, and our down block before our trapper and our wrapper reach their landmarks. We can see Bennett's eyes are up, looking at this unblocked read defender. Easy situation to give. Trap, wrap, hit that hole. No one's there. Explosive game, baby. We saw near the end of the year how they had some designed opportunities for Stetson Bennett, but here is an RPO rep from a quarterback draw design. So 14 quarterback draw reps, snaps, however you want to signify that, across the season. 3 of them went for 10 yards or more, and of course this one goes for a 64-yard touchdown. This is exactly what you want from this design. So Auburn's in cover 2 man coverage, meaning no one's going to be kind of hanging around in the zone. They're going to be following these people, eyes on them, not on the quarterback. So with a traditional 4-man front and 2 deep safeties, there's going to be a hell of a lot of room to run with this shock Lucy concept. So shock is an inverted stick where you have your little stick right on the inside fighting for leverage. Your number 2 man then becomes the vertical stressor with the hot route on the outside. So a Lucy, that's borrowed from Sean Payton's terminology, is basically a read where it could either be a slant or an out route with an outside vert there. But you'll see here how there's just so much room to run for Stetson Bennett with the defense pulled in man coverage. Pulled out. Everyone gets a hat on a hat with the 5 against 4. We find green grass. Boom. Touchdown. So here's another effective wrinkle within Georgia's offense under Todd Monken last year, jet handoff. So across the entire season, all snaps, 1 out of every 7 plays on average used a form of jet motion. So whether it was just disguising things, getting eye candy, guys looking in the backfield, or straight up giving
the ball to one of your best players. They were a very nice part of Georgia's offense. 15 jet handoffs, which we're about to see here on the year. 6 of them went to Brock Bowers, and 2 went for 10 or more yards. This one, of course, the big one, going for 64. Second play of the game against Kent State. Kent State's in this 3 safety look, so they're playing off, and we got a lot of green grass to work with based on how they aligned towards the that side of the field. So basically, everyone's going to feign outside zone except for Darnell Washington, who is responsible for this guy on the edge. Because look, if this guy is occupied, that's a lot of real estate responsible for this guy if he's slow or he doesn't diagnose the play right away. It's really tough to come downfield and try and fill basically 2 gaps with that much real estate. So we're about to see how once we get a kick out here and his hesitation, how Brock Bowers' true speed and athleticism turns this into an explosive gain. So we're going to motion him down. Looks like it's a zone adjustment, so no one's going to follow him across the formation. So again, all we have to do is make sure we steal that outside leverage, and we should be golden. Boom. We occupy him just to hold him just a beat. We got Mr. Washington. We got everyone else occupied, all the eyes in the backfield before Bowers cuts it up inside with that slight hesitation from that safety I mentioned, and he leaves him in the dust. So, again, very nice, effective wrinkle for the Bulldogs.
As crazy as it is to have 4 of your 5 most rep run concepts finish with at least a 50% success rate, all 7 of Georgia's most targeted pass patterns in meaningful minutes did just that. That should really tell you Todd Monken's fingerprints were all over this pass game. So let's dive into their favorite concepts through the air.
Of course, play action bootlegs finished as Georgia's most repped pass concept in meaningful minutes, with the marriage between the run and the pass and the overall balance in terms of concepts and in terms of run-pass ratio. It was absolutely going to be at the top of Todd Monken's wish list to maximize Stetson Bennett. So, overall, very nice. This is a waggle concept. Of the 48 overall play-action boots across the season, 26 were waggles. So in StatCat terminology, that just means we're sliding this guy. So, on a split zone type of action, that's something very typical. So this is just basically complementing that type of stuff. So on the other side, though, we're going to have some at the snap motion. One thing very interesting, and that's going to turn into a vertical pass concept divide, deep vertical with a middle type of read. And then we're going to have, the over-top cross, which arguably could have been targeted here. But, again, basically 7 times out of 10 on waggles, this hot route, slide route will be thrown. Because why? It's an easy throw. It's right in the quarterback's vision. And if it's going to be man coverage and this guy is slow, thinking it might be a split zone type of action, maybe thinking inside leverage, and we have a step toward the outside, it usually can give a decent opportunity for a yak gain. And with Darnell Washington, this is absolutely one of the more impressive reps from his 2022 season. So we'll watch it play out. There's Mr. Monken in jet motion. So it looks like it's going to be a zone adjustment with no one following him across the formation. With that probably means we're going to have some widening and them having to at least respect the verticality of this divide concept. And with them pushed off, that just creates a lot more room, like we're about to see, for Washington to do damage. You can see how the edge defender is held. Not that he would necessarily be blocked by this play, but how the linebacker who is responsible for Mr. Washington is a step behind. We get it to him in space. And even though he would have been tackled there, that would have gone down for a successful gain had he gone down. But he's able to break the tackle and then show off his might and then athleticism for a very, very good gain. So play action, bootlegs, in general, waggles, I should say. They were also tagged with wheelie concepts. So if we were to bring him back over here and he was on the outside, we'd have a wheel post concept, very similar sail concept. So we would have an out route and a vertical, and then also normal waggles, which you'll usually see some playside smashes like a corner or a quick outbreaking comeback, something like that, facilitating the high-low read of that slide coming across the formation. So overall, very nice and effective way to get the ball into the playmaker's hands and bring about nice statistics. So here's another interesting way to run play action waggle. It's the sail concept with the waggle. So you're going to get a 3-man stack on one side of the formation with your vertical presser, your outbreaker, and your slide coming across the formation. So in theory, you should overload any form of zone coverage. You're going to have someone come open 3-beat 2, no matter how you slice it. So it looks like cover 4 invert here from Florida. I'm not exactly sure, but you're going to see here, this safety collapses. It looks like it's going to be one-on-one, or at least vertically, with these two having quarters on the other side of the formation. He's also going to have an underneath responsibility as well. But you'll see just how Brock Bowers, in general, him motioning across the formation, it looks like it's going to be a zone adjustment, but his slide route is going to get the attention of the safety and of this linebacker, basically leaving both of these guys on an island. There's just no chance that this guy is going to come all the way over here and overcut one of those routes. So those guys are left one-on-one. So you'll see here from the slot how nice of a route it is, because he'll get his man thinking inside before he's able to win back across outside the numbers. So everyone else, outside zone action. Again, 26 of the 38 outside or play action bootlegs from Georgia were these waggle types of actions. You can see how Brock Bowers draws the attention. You can maybe arguably say the backside cross was open, but with that space on the outside, why not take it and get that conversion? So again, you can see right here, his eyes, his hips are anticipating some type of in-breaking route. You'll see his hips kind of waggle before going back towards the sideline. Very nice job to create separation for himself and get that conversion behind the chains. So while most of Georgia's play actions were off zone action, here's one off counter seen in the semifinal against TCU. So look, this is well outside of our parameter, but it's a very fun rep nonetheless. So unlike waggles, where you'll see your hot route, slide route, come from the other side of the formation, bootlegs and StatCat lingo have him on the play side. So usually you'll see like a twig route, something like that. But again, very interesting wrinkle after faking counter action, then returning back to the flat. And like the previous example, this is paired with the sail concept. So it's going to be a 3-man high-low towards the outside of the formation. But again, unlike the slide coming from this way, it's already on this side of the formation. So only 12 bootlegs as opposed to waggles like we saw in the other videos. But you can see there, everyone else is blocking counter, back with the two pullers before Bowers shows off his athleticism, faking that type of thing, but for reversing, definitely fooling our linebacker responsible for filling that, covering him in space. We return, we get him the ball. He's able to have forward momentum and race through an arm tackle and getting another yak opportunity to pad his already awesome statistics. So, overall, again, play action bootlegs, they were versatile, they were effective, they were used in a lot of different patterns. Another way play action boots is in terms of the play side flat action. They were also featured with the high-low bench concept. So this is a smash variation. Normal smashes, it's a hitch with a outside corner, but instead of a hitch, you're going to have an out route. So obviously it does facilitate a little bit more high-low action along the sideline, because these bad boys sometimes can take an extra beat longer to develop, and that just helps the throwing lane of the potential pass. But again, very interesting design with the fake counter action, pairing it with the sail concept, and a way to get the ball to one of your best players' hands in space. So the wheelie concept, the last 2 years, has been one of the most effective and potent patterns within Georgia's passing attack under Todd Monken. So it's a vertical switch with inside working outside and outside, working inside while working vertically. So wheel routes, they're very sexy coming out of the backfield or with tight ends. Really effective ways if someone is playing a single high coverage like we're about to see here to really stress that type of leverage towards the outside. So if it's a zone like we're about to see here, with those 3 deep defenders, this guy collapses. He's responsible for the outside flat. Well, he's still responsible to carry this vertical route. And if he doesn't recognize it in time, it can be bad news bears for the coverage. So this is kind of a broken rep, I guess you could say. It's not necessarily hit in stride. It takes some extending from Stetson Bennett, but it's still going to be a way how the wheelie switch comes open paired with cross. So on the year, it was absolutely a very, very nice pairing. We had 7 reps for 142 yards and 4 gains of 20 yards or more. Again, that's total pattern yards, whether that is cross or the wheelie switch targeted, but we're here to talk about the wheelie switch. So this is going to be a 37-yard gain here. So we're going to motion him in. You can see it's kind of a zone adjustment. He's going to come down. He's going to come back. He's going to hover in the middle of the field. He's going to have outside leverage eyeing this in breaker on the backside. But because of how this middle of the field safety is so preoccupied with this crossing route, he's not going to be able to cap this route. And even though it's a fairly decent job from this cornerback to follow the post across the formation, he's just simply out leveraged, and eventually it's going to be a really, really good throw from Stetson Bennett. So again, it's a wheel post with a backside cross, and we'll just see how this post comes on open here after a beat or so. So you can see how the middle of the field safety is completely drawn. He is not really concerned about capping things vertically. Stetson gets out the pocket and delivers a strike downfield. Okay, here are a couple other examples of how the wheelie switch fit into this pass scheme. So even though this Fox concept on this first rep isn't necessarily categorized with the other drop back wheelie patterns, I did want to draw it up because it is another example of it whipping single high coverages. So Foxes are basically fake screens. Screens in general featured on 7% of Georgia's offense in meaningful minutes in our sample. That's almost 1 of every 12 plays. You know, very, very much of this offense. So using complementary things to create explosive gains and opportunities to throw downfield, which is just another example of how Todd Monken was out there cooking. So, like I mentioned, this is a single high type of beater. You know, you're going to have outside leverage being the middle of the field defender. This safety is going to collapse. And like I mentioned in the other video, that then means with 2 vertical routes on one side of the formation, if this middle of the field safety is not there to cap, it's usually going to result in a wide open completion. And since we have a deep outbreaker on the other side, it does enough just to occupy him. But you'll see how this screen action gets the attention of our 2 defenders and how our other flank defender is just a beat slow, recognizing what's going on, and it's going to be a wide open drop. So we'll see here, drawn up. His eyes are in the backfield, and Darnell Washington is already getting vertical, and you can see how he's playing inside leverage with this route about to draw him there as well. It's going to be a nice cushion along the sideline. Perfect ball, just could not bring it in. You can see it from the behind the camera view. He's a little bit preoccupied with that route, so there's no way he can race over and cut us off. Eyes in the backfield before it's too late, and there we go, drop. But this next rep, it's against cover 4. And yeah, it's fluky, no doubt about it. But usually you'll see when teams do cover 4, it will generally divulge into a one-on-one type of situation. Obviously, 2 deep routes, 2 deep coverage men. If you guys are on the same page, passing things off, and no one is out leveraged with a good route, it should be pretty easy to cap. But in this instance, you will see how Lad McConkey gets the attention of both of these guys, which means, like we saw in our previous play in cover 4, with 3 underneath coverage men, that this flank defender then has to carry this wheel route vertically. And look, he does this absolutely perfectly except catch the ball. You can see how the play action gets the attention of everyone else. There's no routes on this side of the formation, so they are kind of frozen. Again, you can see his eyes instantly go to Ladd McConkey. His eyes are towards the middle of the field, leaving this huge void along the sideline. And by this, even though number 2 plays this fairly well, he's with him stride for stride. Again, hits him in hands, just got to finish the play. It's just a great example of how Brock Bowers is completely built different and one of the best players in college football. So wheelie switches, either in the drop back game or off of screen actions, were very much a potent part of this offense. Again, 28 targets and 15 of those went for completions of 20 yards or more. So here was the most featured rendition of the wheelie concept this past season from Georgia's offense. Double post wheel. You see it a lot in the red zone, but it can be effective at all areas of the field, as we're about to see. So this had 10 reps for 87 yards and only 3 completions. But those 3 completions all went for gains of 20 yards or more, including this one. So this is another way of using play action to really, let's just say, screw over this single high coverage rotation. You'll see here, we'll have a deep defender, a deep defender, a deep defender, collapsing safety, collapsing safety. So with the toss action and him having outside run filling responsibility, you'll just see how he completely neglects to carry this wheel route along the sideline. So again, very, very nice job of this design to screw over single high coverages, because in theory, with 3 deep routes and only 2 guys deep, yeah, someone's going to come open unless the flank defender carries vertically like we're about to see here. So we'll let it play out a little bit. Of course, Georgia, they're lining up quick right here. But by the time they break the huddle and snap the ball, only 5 seconds have passed. Of course, you can kind of see a little late lining up, and that really does help the whole thing as well. So, he's going towards the outside thinking toss action. Of course, we had an extra puller to entice that linebacker as well, as opposed to try and sneak off towards where we're trying to get our guy open here. And the 2 deep occupiers do their thing against the guys they were supposed to go against. There again, there is our safety who's supposed to be covering our wide open Mr. Brock Bowers here. Underthrow prevents a bigger gain, but nonetheless, a very effective pattern to use the wheelie concept. Why cross? It has been a popular pass pattern starting with the air raid for the last 30 years or so. Of course, it's weak side floods, nothing new. They've been around basically since the invention of the drop back pass game. But here is a very nice rep utilizing at the snap jet motion and power play actions. 2 features that were definitely a part of Georgia's offense: at the snap motions and gap run. So again, jet motions were featured on about 14% of Georgia snaps overall. And, 3 of their most popular runs were gap schemes with a guard pulling. So it looks like it's going to be cover 4, but because how we are a little bit undermanned in the box, you will see this safety collapse down, which creates a massive void for our crosser to come open. I'm saying that even though it kind of divulges to 3 deep defenders, because of how he comes down and how this fellow is playing leverage a little bit towards the outside here, as opposed to true middle of the field, looking to cap that route coming across the formation. I'm more inclined to think that this is a cover 4 bust, just because of this guy being brought out of position by the jet motion and him eyeing the back coming towards his side of the formation. So again, you're going to see an under over top cross. Cross was designed to be an explosive pass play against 2 high coverages in the air raid, but of course, single high coverages, like I just mentioned, how everything divulges. If that middle of the field defender does not cap the crosser, it's going to be wide the hell open. So bust or no, big explosive gain, and another example how Brock Bowers is a true absolute playmaker as a downfield receiver. So weak side floods were basically Georgia's two most popular targeted pass patterns in meaningful minutes. You had your play action bootlegs, waggles, and additional wide cross, slot crosses, however you want to call that in your playbook. But while waggles utilize split zone actions to potentially get open a slide route in the dropback game, you sometimes use an extra body in protection to sell a type of fake. So this formation, tight bunch, duo dive, very popular. But when this was an offset action, the running back was away from the strength, doing that type of mesh with the quarterback in the backfield, most times it was split zone. So very nice job from Monken, again, doing complementary football. 54 featured snaps from across the year, and 11 of them used play action, so about 36% utilized play action. So this is a fairly basic design with max protection, 7 guys in protection. Weak side cross, I'm interpreting this as a cover one robber, so man coverage, one single high safety, and one other guy in the middle of the field trying to rob crossing patterns. But because of how the run action kind of draws him out of position and he's late to recover, you're going to see how our main route comes open on the sideline, outside the numbers, because of outside leverage from the guy who was responsible for that route. So we'll let it play through here. You can see how he's drawn up. If he was supposed to be robber, maybe he would have hung out a little bit more depth and with his attention towards that route, but because the run action draws him out of position a little bit closer towards the line of scrimmage, and with this guy playing outside leverage, there's just no one left to cap that route. So very nice pitch and catch opportunity there from Georgia. I should also mention, while this is a 3x1 set, cross was pretty common. Let's just pretend here, folks, out of 2x2 sets. So if we had cross coming from this side of the formation, some other complementary pairings include the slice concept, the Ohio slice. So quick out and a vertical. You also saw slot fades. Whether it was with a Fox technique, faking like it might be a little tunnel screen or something before continuing on your outward trajectory, or if you were just straight up running a fade, those were also very popular pairings. But nonetheless, this was a very explosive pattern with 8 completions of 20 yards or more. That was basically 30% of its reps on the year. So whether it was weak side floods from bootlegs or from the pocket, they were absolutely effective and one of Georgia's most popular pass patterns through the air. Okay, RPO tunnels. They were featured on 83 snaps across the entirety of Georgia's schedule. So that's about 11% of their plays. I already mentioned how true screens like Convoy, swing screens, slip screens, things like that were already featured on 7% of Georgia's offense. So, you got to think about that. Almost 20%, 18% were like variations of screens, really helping Stetson Bennett, not to do too much heavy lifting. So RPOs, it's all about numbers in space. We can see if this is our 2-man matchup here, our safety is pretty far back, and that means he's going to have to come downfield, and there's a lot of real estate with Ladd McConkey able to work in and potentially make a play. I really do like utilizing that outside leverage, wash him and get inside and really try and make something happen. But again, it is an inside zone read. This edge defender is our key read defender. Everyone else doing zone combo blocks away, hopefully to the next level. But this is a pre-snap decision from Stetson Bennett, realizing that we're going to have a leverage advantage with our guys in space in our 2-on-2 matchup. On the other side of the formation, it's just curls. They're going to be locked up 1-on-1, so they're not going to be any bit of this play. But of the 83 featured tunnel screens, it only drew
22 targets. And of those 22 targets, only one resulted in a gain of 20 yards or more, and we're about to see it. So we'll let it play out here. I mean, again, it's just numbers in space. You can see how he has to come down and fill all of that. It's just really going to be a tough thing to redirect and try and arm tackle a slippery player like McConkey, who has that long stride right there to high step through that tackle and get an explosive gain to set up a scoring opportunity here. So only Stanford was the only other defense that defended more than 2 tunnel screen reps. So even though it was a constant idea to try and stress defenses from sideline to sideline, it really wasn't an overly targeted or featured thing down to down. Because again, it's not something you force. It's only something that you take when the defense gives it to you, like on this particular rep. So stick variations, if everyone wants to play 2 deep coverages against you and you don't want to run shot plays all the time, you can just pick on the underneath voids of those coverages with this concept. So shock is inverted stick. So, if you were in a 3-by-1 formation, there are many ways to run stick variations, but basically on a normal stick, you could see someone running a flat with your titular route working for inside leverage and your outside guy working vertically. You could see double sticks side by side, Raider stick in my terminology, and then you have shock where number 2 becomes the vertical stressor. The hot route is on the outside and you still have your inside man working your stick route. So this particular route is paired with the Texas concept, which is a middle, high, low, skinny post, angle route, trying to read, the stacked coverages there. But again, with how the defense reacts and how there's nobody in the middle of the field, this is just an easy pitch and catch, drive starter type of thing. I mean, you see this in the air raid all the time. You see this in spread offenses all the time. It's just a way to get, 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, and keep yourself ahead of the chains. But in this instance, this is an explosive gain. Sadly, this was the only completion that went for 20 yards or more. It just happened to be the very first rep of the season against Oregon. So, 40 featured snaps. The vast majority were these shock variations. They also did, you could probably say double stick with a swing screen type of thing. But definitely this shock pattern was the popular one. So from empty, it was paired with option routes on the outside, levels coming from the other side of the formation, the pivot concept coming from the other side of the formation, solo curls, and like I said, this Texas, like we are drawing up here. But we can see here, we have I want to say it's cover 6. I'm not exactly sure, but that's how I am interpreting it. And this guy basically gets in no man's land. He is worried about the vertical stressor, and in doing so, that just leaves Lad McConkey wide open on this little underbelly route here. So just stops right to space, pitch and catch, makes the guy miss, and there you have it. That's as simple as it can be sometimes with the stick concept. So all Verts weren't particularly hammered from this offense. They preferred other ways to stretch the field vertically, but sometimes you can't beat 4 Verts. So this had 19 featured snaps across the entire season, and it drew 14 outright targets. It had 4 checkdowns, no sacks or scrambles, interesting enough. This is a play that usually breaks down on average, but yeah, none of those types of plays from this offense. So it was most featured against Stanford and against Ohio State, but here's a rep right before halftime in the red zone in the semifinal. So this utilizes some pre-snap motion. We can see man comes across the formation with our receiver, signifying it is man coverage, and it's going to look like it's going to be just single high man. One middle high safety, everyone else locked up
in man coverage. In doing so, with him in the middle of the field, that is way too far away to try and help out and cap this vertical route to A.D. Mitchell, who comes down with a touchdown play. So, again, it's just fairly simple, one-on-one deep. Go up and get it, man. Make a play. So, all in all, it had 6 explosive completions to gain of 20 yards or more. And even though it was a rep was a design like this, that just basically was a true drop back pass, 6 of the 19 reps utilized play action. Convoy Screen. Of the 30 targeted true screens in our sample here from Georgia, 26 were Convoy Screens. On the year, though, it did draw 30 featured snaps. 15 of them were behind the chains, like you would imagine. But in our sample here, meaningful minutes, 18 points or less, only 5 of them showed up on third down when behind the chains. But here is one, and here is the only explosive Convoy Screen on this season. So of the 30 featured snaps, 22 came off of play action. 11 had ghost trap action, so that may have been from empty or something, where you're still pulling a guard, but basically everyone else is on their Convoy Screen type of alignment. And 11 others used normal play action. So this is one of those normal play actions, but we are doing a power type of action here. But it looks like Tennessee bringing 6. They're blitzing. They're trying to get a big play, trying to alter this game. They might be calling the game from emotion as opposed to trying to doing something that would get them off the field. And this is another example of how Monken was able to scheme guys open based on great situations. So, we're going to have basically Brock Bowers one-on-one in space with this cornerback. Eventually, Broderick Jones is going to let his presence be felt as the safety collapses down, but still, it's going to be a 2-on-2 matchup as no one else is going to be in the vicinity to tackle Monkey before he gets past the line to gain. So we can see there is our pull type of action to try and entice this extra bit of a stump, but basically 6 guys from Tennessee are very much concerned what's happening behind the line of scrimmage. Stetson Bennett gets it out to our playmaker in space. You can already see how Bowers is warding our guy off. After faking that action, we can get 2 of our guys out in space. And here's Broderick Jones delivering a punch. Boom! As the collapsing safety is then taken on by Mr. Bowers. We get to the line to gain. And Tate Ratledge, our other guard, is in the area to ward guys off. And Monkey gets a very, very nice gain. So all in all, total screens, 7% of this offense's reps. But the Convoy Screen was definitely the most featured and the most effective throughout the whole course of the season. Definitely not a sexy play design, but effective nonetheless. It did finish among this offense's top concepts in terms of success rate. So all curls, whether from the RPOs or in true dropback patterns, were featured on 20 reps. Not a whole lot, about the similar amount as all verts. So you gotta like the up and down elements to test deep and test short when they give you cushion. So this is an example of maximizing cushion. So we can see Vanderbilt here in a 4-4 alignment. Yeah, you don't really see that too much in today's day and age pre-snap, but they are really trying to get Georgia off the field. It's third down. Try and stop that run. But with all the cushion that they're giving on the outside, a little button hook to space, nothing you can do about that. So even though the safety is a little late lining over, you might think test that type of window. Nah, we're just going to test that one on the outside. No doubt about it. So we'll let it play through here. But you can just see with him bailing so far out, we're just going to turn around right at the sticks, pitch and catch opportunity, and get an explosive completion. So this was the only explosive completion from all curls, whether it was drop back or RPO, on the entire season. So all in all, 20 featured snaps, 13 targets, and only 1 to go 20 yards or more, which is on this particular rep right here against the worst team in the conference. spacing, curl-flat combos, they weren't necessarily the most featured drop-back pass pattern from this offense, but it definitely had a role. In fact, no other pass pattern drew more targets in meaningful minutes when behind the chains on third downs than this simple horizontal spacing concept. So, most of them were poker looks. So this is poker basically over here. It's a 3-man combo, middle hook, flat route, curl route. It's just a matter of who is doing the flat route, who's doing the middle curl. For me, if number 3 is the middle hook guy, number 2 is the flat route, and then it's a hook, that's normal poker. On this route, as we saw, is so-called poker swap. That's basically saying these guys are swapping routes. So that means number 3 is the flat route, number 2 is the middle hook, and number 1 maintains his normal trajectory. So well paired with that combo, you can see smashes as well as smash fades from this scheme. But overall, most of them were that. You also saw some spacing concept. So spacing, that's more of a 3-man true bunch type of set. Same type of idea where you're having kind of a crisscross type of action, trying to find a void in the secondary with an outbreaker being your threat towards the flat here. But again, this is a poker look. We had 16 featured snaps overall, and only 2 were not behind the chains. So again, this was something just to get us back on track, getting easy completions, not trying to do too much, and stress single high coverages. So we'll let it play out here. Mississippi State, they are a 3-3-5 defense. You can see a lot of standing bodies here trying to create some type of confusion from Stetson Bennett here on 3rd and 9, but he is not going to be fooled whatsoever. So we can see how it plays out here. Just a very nice curl to space with the motion helping create a little bit of additional leverage for us. So we're coming inside, and if he has outside leverage, we're just going to curl up right in between him and this over top safety and ahead of the window from this dropper who is a little bit drawn out from the flat route here. So you can see him shoot out to the flat here, but he's pulled out just enough to where he doesn't fit into that throwing lane from that curl. And again, there is our corner with outside leverage. So it's fairly simple concept. You'll see this on all levels of football, but curl flat concepts are absolutely ways to be effective no matter who you have at quarterback to get consistent gains against single high coverages.
So there you have it. There were the foundational looks for Georgia's 2022 offense. I hope you guys learned a whole lot, whether you are a coach looking to copycat some things or if you're a casual fan looking to understand more the down-to-down operations for Georgia's offense. Hopefully that scratched that itch for you. Moving forward with Todd Monken taking his talents to the pros, it remains to be seen just how different Mike Bobo wants to tweak things to his liking. Of course, he's going to have a lot of weapons to play with, but his previous 2 SEC stops don't necessarily build a whole lot of confidence. But based on how things were operating, he'd be crazy to try and rock the boat a little too much. But here we are in this offseason. Be sure to check out SECStatCat.com, follow along on YouTube and on Twitter for more developments around your favorite programs across the SEC. But until next time, I am Clark Brooks, SEC StatCat, telling you to have a good one.